Welcome to this edition of Go Vote Omaha, presented by the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha. I'm Jasmine Frazier, a League member, and I will be our facilitator for tonight's conversation. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization and does not endorse political candidates or parties. Our purpose is to empower voters and defend democracy. Go Vote Omaha focuses on policy issues, and as a result of our discussions, we hope you will be ready to make an informed decision during election time. Today, we will hear from the two candidates for Douglas County Attorney. Our objective is for voters to hear about issues and policies directly from the candidates in a nonpartisan environment. To find out more about the candidates that will be on your ballot this November, visit vote411.org. Organized and published by the League of Women Voters of Nebraska Volunteers. Vote411.org is a one-stop shop for election-related information. It provides specifics about the election process, details about general and state candidates, and information directly from candidates who educate the public about their platform by responding to the Vote411.org questionnaire. The format for today is as follows. Each candidate will get a 1-minute opening statement, followed by questions prepared by the League of Women Voters. Each candidate will answer every question and will have up to 90 seconds to answer. Following the questions, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. We alternate speaking order throughout the forum. A timekeeper will signal candidates when they have 30 seconds of time remaining and when to stop. Before the forum, the candidates drew numbers to determine the initial speaking order. I will introduce them now in that order. The two candidates running for Douglas County Attorney are Klein and Dave Pantos. Let's start with opening statements. Donald, take it away.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting this together. My name is Klein. I'm the Douglas County Attorney. I have been in the Douglas County Attorney's Office for many years. My goal is to keep families safe. Public safety is the ultimate goal of the county attorney. The other part is to hold criminals responsible and accountable for the crimes that they've committed. And thirdly, it's important that we give people a second chance that deserve so. And in that regard, we have more problem-solving courts in Douglas County than anywhere in the state of Nebraska. We have a veterans treatment court where we just put in. We have a drug court that we put in 1996 when I was the chief deputy with the help of Judge Jim Murphy. We have a young adult court which we've just expanded from 30 to 60 people. We have a diversion program. We have a mental health diversion. We keep about 350 people out of the system with those problem-solving courts. Thank you.
Dave?
Thank you. My name is Dave Pantos, and I'm running to be your next Douglas County Attorney. I've been a lawyer for over 26 years, and I've spent my whole career fighting to protect the rights of the less fortunate in the court system. But folks, our criminal justice system is broken. We deserve better. Our prisons are bursting at the seams. Our criminal justice system has the following problems. The racial disparities in sentencing and incarceration are the worst in the country. And as of August, we have the worst homicide rate in Omaha in over a decade. Meanwhile, they're talking about building a very expensive new prison, and you're going to have to pay for it. I have the experience, dedication, and leadership to reform the system and make sure that you feel safe every day. And that's why I'm running, and that's why I want your vote on November 8th.
Thank you. Question number one. Dave, I'll start with you. What are the top issues facing prosecutors today?
Sure. So in Nebraska, we have, as I mentioned before, a crisis in the prison system. Our prisons are bursting at the seams, and we have huge racial disparities, and the problem keeps getting worse. We had a great opportunity this spring through a criminal justice reform measure, LB 920. It had bipartisan support. Unfortunately, my opponent was opposed to it, and that helped lead its defeat. We have to address that issue, and as I mentioned before, the homicide rate in Omaha in August was the worst it was and it has been in a decade. Folks just don't feel safe anymore. Also on the ballot this year are two really important things. One, women's right to choose. Republicans across this country, especially Nebraska, are looking forward to prosecuting women and doctors for medical choices. Not on my watch. I won't let that happen. Second, another huge issue, democracy is on the ballot. My opponent endorsed, supported Donald Trump, who led the January 6th insurrection. Democracy is at stake, and we need folks in office who will do the right thing.
Donald?
Well, probably the three, I've been doing this job for many years. Probably the most important things that, issues that face prosecutors generally are mental health resources. One of the problems we have as a prosecutor is getting people into the regional center. There's not enough funding the state has provided with regard to mental health resources. We see so many people that either have a drug addiction problem because they're treating their own mental health disorder with drugs, and that's again the answer with the problem-solving courts or our mental health diversion program. We want to fix people that have addiction problems. We don't want to send them to prison. We want to get them back to be whole. So those are some of the biggest problems. The other thing is I think we need to make sure that we have trust in the community and faith in law enforcement and prosecutors generally. We need to support our police officers. We don't need to defund the police. We need to make sure that we support law enforcement and make sure they're doing their job correctly. And that's where experience comes into play. We are not a rubber stamp for the police department. We have to tell the police department at times what they can and can't do. And so there has to be some trust there with regard to what we tell them, and that comes from experience. If you have experience trying jury trials, if you have experience in law enforcement, then you can provide that trust. I've taught the police recruit class for 20 years with regard to search and seizure, arrest, Miranda issues, and those are important things to have the knowledge of to be able to have the trust of law enforcement.
Question number 2. Explain how you would handle prosecution in your office with the competing goals of separating dangerous criminals from the public, rehabilitating offenders, and deterring future criminal behavior. Donald, I'll start with you.
Sure, and that's what we've done in the past in our office. It's the balance between putting people who we need to protect the public from in prison and holding them accountable and responsible for their crimes, and helping those that we want to help so that they will be good citizens. And that's where our problem-solving courts come in. They've been so successful. They do such a great job. And we also have a diversion program. We allow people who have committed low-level crimes, nonviolent offenses, to work through the diversion program to make restitution so that they don't get convicted of that felony. Same thing with our drug courts, our young adult court, and the Veterans Treatment Court. They're so successful. I only wish that people could see live some of our graduations from those events. So it's balancing between keeping the people who are committing these violent crimes, which are a small amount of people, and making sure that we give people a second chance that deserve that second chance. Our homicide rate is down here. Nationally, you see that homicide rate's up 30%. Our homicide rate this year, we went from 37 2 years ago, 32 last year, and I think we're at 21 right now. Last year at this time we were at 24. So it's lower than it has been in the past. So that's a good trend, and that shows us that we're doing things right.
Dave?
Thank you, and just a reminder, August was the worst month for homicides in 10 years in Omaha. We have a huge problem here in terms of violent crime in Omaha. While I fully support not prosecuting low-level drug offenders and finding diversion routes for nonviolent offenders, huge supporter of that. I think we have a huge issue here in terms of sexual assault and other violent crimes. At the end of 2021, there were about 1,000 unprocessed rape kits in Omaha. That's unacceptable. And the fact that the murder rate is up and we're not even talking about that issue, it's unconscionable. I think we need to do way more to hold violent offenders accountable so that folks feel safe. I remember talking to an individual who approached me a few months ago. She had she was a victim of sexual assault. She said to me, I got passed from one prosecutor to another in the Douglas County Attorney's Office and ended up having her case dropped. She had 4 separate prosecutors because of the huge problem with turnover in the county attorney's office. How can we hold violent criminals accountable if we can't get a handle on turnover in the Douglas County Attorney's Office?
Question number 3. What can the office do to limit racial disparities in sentencing and prosecution? And Dave, I'll start with you.
Well, I think the most important first step in handling that very important issue, because folks, Nebraska is the worst in the country when it comes to racial disparities, is transparency. We need to have an audit right away from a racial justice perspective of the county attorney's office and kind of see where the problem's coming from. One huge problem is that judges have too much discretion when it comes to sentencing. I think county attorneys should step in and make more appropriate recommendations. Right now, we leave all the discretion to the judges, who are all, or most of them, are former prosecutors. So we can do better there as well. So we need transparency and openness so we can look at the issue and find out where the problem's coming from. We need a racial justice audit of the Douglas County Attorney's Office. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that in other parts of our state, but I'm focused on the Douglas County Attorney's Office. And we need to change the sentencing recommendation policies right now. The way it's working right now is resulting in these racial disparities. And it's not me saying that. This is the criminal justice report that was released about a year ago that should have inspired the passage of LB 920, which is the great criminal justice reform bill that my opponent was opposed to and helped to lead the defeat of. So those are some initial steps right off the bat. Thanks for asking.
Donald?
Thank you. Well, if you look at the victimization of crime, most victims are lower socioeconomic minorities. Last year, 60% of our homicide victims were minorities. So there's a tremendous racial disparity there. That's where most of the crime's happening, not because they're minorities, but because of socio and economic issues, education issues, and job issues. And that's where we need to work. That's why I have 16 lawyers in the juvenile court system, because it's so important that if we have an opportunity to help a young person turn the right direction, I have all the resources I can muster to put in that juvenile court system to keep that person in school, to help with our education system, and to make sure that the family gets the necessary resources they need to make sure that they're doing their job in keeping that child on the right track. That's where we need the help. That's where we fix disparities with regard to those kinds of things. It's not a system where we fault the judges for doing their job. They know all about the facts and circumstances of the case. They do the best job they can to do the sentencings. So that's, I meet with the school superintendents yearly, maybe even more so than that, to find out what issues they're seeing in the schools and how we can help them keep kids in school. And to me, it's about starting kids at a very early age to make sure they stay in school, they have hope, they're educated, they have the resources they need to get good jobs.
Question number 4. With the advent of such technology as social media and body-worn cameras, prosecutors must contend with large volumes of digital information and must determine the admissibility of evidence based on not just its probative value, but also whether a proper chain of custody was established and followed. How will you deal with the technology demands? Donald?
It's a huge issue. I mean, we have seen such a change with regard to video, body cam, since I've been in the many years I've been a prosecutor. There's ring cameras, there's security cameras everywhere, there's body cameras, there's cruiser cams, there's cameras in the interrogation rooms, which are all very positive, good things. But it's somewhat overwhelming at times when you're talking about all the evidence that a prosecutor has to view. So it's a resource issue. And then also we need to make sure that in the course of that process, we give all that information and all those videos to defense counsel. So it's making sure that the police are doing their job right, that we obtain those videos correctly, that there's not an issue with regard to search and seizure, there's not an issue with regards to obtaining them illegally. And the other thing is, you know, I teach. It was called SMILES, Social Media and Law Enforcement. And we went over the different things because it's a great asset to use on all parts of the spectrum, from the defense counsel to the prosecutor, to be able to get this video and use it. So we have methodologies that we use to make sure that we're doing it right. When we get a search warrant for a cell phone, for a computer, to make sure that the police are acquiring that evidence in the proper manner, and it helps us with getting the right person to be held accountable and responsible for the crime.
Dave?
Thank you. Well, there's two main issues I want to address in response to your question. First of all, why is it that while the OPD has body cam, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office does not? We need to invest in the Douglas County Sheriff's Office also having body cams. It's amazing to me that we haven't done that yet. We need to find the money. I think the money's there, and invest right away. So very important issue. And then when it comes to social media, a very disturbing thing happened a couple months ago, not too far away, a couple hours north of us in Norfolk, where the law enforcement actually subpoenaed Facebook messaging between a mom and her daughter for the purpose of prosecuting an abortion. And I think that is a step too far. It's crossing some kind of line in terms of civil rights and civil liberties. And it really shows you what's at stake in this election. The fact that they are ready, willing, and able to prosecute abortions, and they're going to use social media to do so. So I think that's definitely at stake, and that's something I'm opposed to.
At a time when many prosecutor offices around the country are dealing with the shortage of prosecutors, how will you make sure your office has adequate staffing, including recruiting and retaining talented and diverse prosecutors, and what training will you implement, Dave?
I think recruiting and retaining great deputy county attorneys is a massive issue. I've heard all the stories that folks have been hearing about a huge amount of turnover in the Douglas County Attorney's Office. I've heard anywhere between, so I think there's at full staff 63 deputy attorneys in the office, 60 to 63, 15 to 20 left last year, 10 to 15 have already left this year. It's a massive problem. It sounds like they're getting their student loans discharged, and then they're walking off to greener pastures. I want to put a stop to that. I want to respect the fact that these deputy county attorneys are public servants who are committed to keeping our streets safe and achieving justice, equal justice under the law. And I want to directly invest with them. One idea I have, it's where we're going to actually get deputy county attorneys to adopt neighborhood associations and neighborhood alliances. Get them out in the community, meeting with folks and learning about the issues that they're facing, and also introducing what's happening in the county attorney's office. All the things that we can do to make this job a career they want to stick with, so we don't have to pull in retired attorneys who are already out of practice. We're trying to pay them more and creating disparities in payment between the public defender and county attorney's office. We need someone in there who really invests in these deputy county attorneys, and I'll be that great boss for them.
Donald?
Thank you. Well, we work very hard to have a great staff, and I have a great staff in the county attorney's office, from Brenda Beadle, who's my chief deputy, who's been in that business for 25 years, to all the deputies that I have working for me. 13 of those deputies during my tenure have become judges. 6 women in the District Court of Nebraska, which is historic. The first African-American female district court judge came from my office. I'm very proud of those people who left because they were appointed to judgeships. If you talk to anybody that's ever left the office, they'll talk to you about what a great staff that we have and what a great place it is to work. When I interview people about this job, I tell them, you know, you have a great opportunity here. My mantra is, what can we do to make Douglas County a better place to live from all aspects? And that's what we do. I teach at Creighton University School of Law. I have access to law students. We are very aggressive in recruiting people to do this job, and we have great law clerks We have great staff, and we'll continue to do that over the years. So don't be misled by some of the statements that my opponents made that are not true. The staff we have is a great staff, and we do a great job under difficult circumstances and difficult cases.
Okay, next question. How would you improve the public's trust in the judicial system? Donald, I'll start with you.
Well, I think one of the most important things to improve trust is to be out there in the community, to have accessibility to the community, to answer questions. I answer questions pretty much on a daily basis with the media, to let them know what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and then also to reach out to the community, whether it's no matter where it is in the community, to visit with neighborhood associations, to visit with churches, to visit with pastors, to see what they're seeing, to visit with school superintendents. So all those things are so important to make sure that we communicate better and that people understand and look at the office that represents them. That's who we are. We answer to the people. The other thing is make sure that the office, as much as you can do it, reflects the community with regard to diversity, in our office. Our office right now is probably about 50-50 with regards to women and men. It's been a great progression over the years as far as hiring women prosecutors. We've worked very hard to get more diversity, more minorities in our office, and if you look at our office, you'll see that. So that's very important, and I think when people come to our office, it needs to reflect their community, all communities.
Dave?
So I think the key things when it comes to improving the public's opinion of the judicial system: transparency, accessibility, and accountability. Not one of those three things is currently in play with the current county attorney. Transparency. Let's make sure that the public is provided objective, unbiased data about the metrics, outcomes, and effectiveness of the Douglas County Attorney's Office. You go to the Douglas County Attorney's Office website right now, there's no information that you can use to even evaluate who works there, how well they're doing in terms of closure rates, et cetera. Accountability. So you have all that information out there. Now the public can hold you accountable and assess whether or not you're doing a good job. Right now it's all just anecdotal. There's nowhere to get that information. Heck, I'm running for office and I had a hard time finding stuff. And folks in the media and other folks in the public tell me the same thing. And I think if you can be transparent and be accountable, that means you can also be accessible, because everyone's going to know what are the appropriate metrics for evaluating the effectiveness of the office. If we do that, if we can accomplish that, we'll be able to get beyond a lot of the divisive and difficult things that have occurred over the last couple of years in our community. I am committed to making that happen and to being the most transparent government office in Nebraska.
Okay, we'll start with closing statements. Dave, take it away.
Well, again, I want to echo Don in saying thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. It's so important for folks to be educated as to the issues related to offices like this that don't normally get the kind of public attention that they deserve. And that's why, as I said before, I want to be the most transparent and accessible county attorney this state has ever seen. This way you can really hold me accountable for the performance of the office and to make sure that you know you're getting your best bang for the buck. But folks, we do have a criminal justice crisis in our county right now. We need reform immediately. We need someone new to come in and get a hold of turnover and turn that around to address the overcrowding crisis and address the worst in the nation racial disparities when it comes to incarceration and sentencing. And I am looking forward to being a county attorney who's on the inside and on your side. Thank you so much.
Donald?
Thank you. In closing, I would just ask for your vote to continue the hard work that I've been doing over the years in the Douglas County Attorney's Office. If you ask for qualifications, this is about a job. This is a job that we do. This isn't about politics. Between myself and my chief deputy, we have 50 years of experience in law enforcement. That would be a qualification that you would ask for to do this job. We have, between the two of us, done over 200 jury trials. That's another qualification that you need to do this job when you're supervising trial lawyers, jury trial lawyers, who come in every day and ask questions about issues that they have during the course of trial or issues that they have about the cases that they're handling. So it's so important to have that experience, because it's important for that experience to be there to keep the community safe and to hold criminals accountable and responsible for the crimes they commit and protect the public. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you want to learn more about the candidates and issues that will be on your ballot, visit vote411.org for a personalized resource tool. A special thanks to Donald and Dave for participating in tonight's conversation. For the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha, I'm Jasmine Frazier. As always, we urge you to be informed and be a voter on November 8th, 2022. Go vote, Omaha.